I guess really just to hit on something you were saying there, David, for those of you who have been actually around the Formula One exhibition, the first 2 or 3 cars you see in generational terms there in the decades, they were a lot of free-flow thinking. People were coming up with concepts, ideas, and trying to put them into operation with limited resources in terms of the materials they could use. But then from probably the BRM, maybe the MP4 further on, a lot of the design, which is what we're talking about here, a lot of the design of the cars has been determined by the regulations. The regulations say how long a car can be, how high a car can be. The regulations say what the shape of a certain thing can be. So Formula One has the best engineers in the world. The FIA have the second best engineers in the world. That's a fact. It's simple. If you're a dork, you work for the FIA. If you're intelligent, you work for Formula One. So the people in the FIA make the rules, and they make the rules as they think fit for designing a car, and then it's up to the Formula One engineers to exploit those rules to build the best car they can, and to package the car, and to package the different engines, the different sizes of the engines, whether you've got KERS or not, which tyre, well, you're all on the same tyres, but running through the generations. Package all those bits and pieces in the best way to conform to the rules and still come up with innovation. Innovation was still there when we went through the skirts era of the cars. Innovation was still there up until 1994, 5, 6 onwards. Then the innovation started to get dictated to by the rules, and that's why you see all these little flip-ups and things on the cars, because the engineers found that in the rules it didn't say you couldn't use them, so let's use them. So then they started developing that sort of thing. So the engineers were trying to outsmart the FIA all the way through then.
I think that's the key point, Bob, isn't it? That very few people are going to be clumsy enough to actually cheat. It's unprofessional, it's foolish.
Well, it depends which team you're with.
Yeah, it's shameful, isn't it? But the thing is, rules will say some things. You know, if it says that the wing has to be 600 wide, the wing has to be 600 wide. There's no area, that's an absolute. But sometimes a rule will say something, and we all know what it's supposed to mean, but what does it say? And what does it not say? And what does that imply? And this is the process that engineers go through, and they say, no, we could do this, because the basic physics of how to make a car fast, at a basic level, they're not that difficult. Everyone knows them. So how do you exploit them? And the engineers throw up ideas. Does the rules say we can't do this?
I think a good example of what Craig's talking about there is the rear wings. That everybody knew the rear wing had to be certain dimension, had to be this high, this wide there, attached to this, how with this bolt, safety and all sorts of things. What it didn't say is the wing wasn't allowed to bend backwards when you were going really fast. And that's what they made the wings do, is the cars were accelerating. You don't need a wing when you're going in a straight line. It's preferable not to have one. So if you can make that wing flexible, that it flattens out at the back, the rules didn't say you couldn't do that. So at least 3 teams did that for 3 or 4 years before they were caught. Or not caught, before it was found out.
That's
and
right.
It was the other teams that found out.
Yeah.
So it's that exploitation that's in the design, and it's you guys that were doing that.
And I was going to say that
Not specifically cheating. I didn't mean that.
Actually, I can give you an example of that. There's 2 things I was going to say there. The first one was weight. You know, obviously there's a weight limit, and I think when I was there, it was 500 kilograms dry weight, and pretty much we could have rocked up onto the grid with our car at about 420 kilograms. And there was a real push within the design team, obviously, to reduce the weight as much as possible everywhere in the car. And the reason for that is that we could then control the balance of the car by positioning the weight where we wanted it. And I was obviously involved with the under tray, and we were obviously looking at how low we could get the weight in the car. And so then we had 80-odd kilograms of weight, lead weight, that we could layer out very thin. In the base of the chassis, in the base of the under tray, and those are the sort of things that the rules are there. You've obviously got to comply to them, but how do you actually get around them? And just on that bendy aero,
I wasn't accusing you.
I was involved obviously with the bodywork and Tyrrell. We actually brought the X-wings out, and that was the first sort of appendage, I suppose, that was sort of a start of a slippery slope for F1.
You've got to say they were pretty ugly, those things.
Oh, they were pretty ugly. They were banned quite quickly, actually. But actually in
Just as
026, I actually did a little side wing. In fact, there's one that's quite similar that's on the Ferrari now. And I remember I didn't go to, we were always based in the office, so race weekend for us, I'd be in the factory usually on a Saturday, or in the design office on a Saturday. It was generally a chill out time within the engineering team because it was quite relaxed. Our bosses and everything weren't there, and which meant that the whip wasn't being cracked quite so hard. But we'd always watch practice, generally watch practice in the smoker room and things. And I remember there was some footage of the Tyrrell going down the back straight, and I'd only just designed this side wing, the one that sort of sits up on the side of the car, on the very outskirts of the bodywork. And within the rules, obviously, there was a projection area, and you weren't actually allowed to exceed that. And here was this quite graphic shot of the Tyrrell going down the back straight, and this wing was bending right over, under load, which got corrected for the next race, and we weren't picked up. We weren't quite at the pointy end of the grid, probably to get penalised for it. So.
I think it's fair to say that the modern media has actually made it a lot harder to do some of these dirty tricks that used to happen. You know, how intrusive in-car cameras are. The amount that radios get monitored. You know, you can't get on the radio to your driver and tell them to, you know, initiate launch control or anything foolish because it's all monitored now. But it doesn't matter what they do with the rules. It doesn't matter what the technical people do to try and slow these things down. The engineers are always looking. They know what they want to do. The rules are saying you can't do it, but they still want to do it, and that's how they get there.
Sorry, so we'll just repeat the question. Sorry.
The question was about the diffuser and the latest diffuser issue about Braun and the other teams having that diffuser. Would they have gone to the FIA to check it out first of all?
Yeah. Did the FIA make a mistake when they said, well, you're right with your interpretation, but it's not the intent we want?
I think I have to correct you straight away there. The FIA don't make mistakes. They're always right, regardless.
Question answered.
Yeah, just on that note, there's actually a lot of you can't afford. Obviously, there's a lot of bad press if you can get all your points taken away, and there's actually a lot of behind the scenes discussion and that goes on between, you know, the heads of the teams and the FIA to ensure that their interpretations of the rules are correct and that they're not going to get penalised. So.
There is a mechanism to go to Charlie Whiting and say, Charlie, we've got this wonderful idea, what do you think? And he'll go through it, and he will not tell any other team. Charlie is very well trusted, ex-Brabham mechanic. I don't know why you'd trust him, but anyway. He's trusted really very well, and if he says it's okay, as far as they're concerned. But it is not. He says it's okay in his opinion, but it's not an FIA-accepted rule until it's tested under protest, which is exactly what happened.